Let us now move on to our next session. This session is a panel discussion on the topic Beyond Paywalls, Is There Sufficient Money? And for the same, I would like to welcome our esteemed panelists, our moderator, Priya Bubna, co-founder and CEO, The Morning Context. Hi, Priya.
Hi, hello, Garima.
Thank you for joining today. I would also like to welcome Mr. Pradeep Gairola, VP and Business Head, The Hindu. Hi, Pradeep. Welcome.
Thanks, Garima.
And Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, Business Head, Economic Times. We welcome you, Sanjeev. Thank you to all the panelists for joining in today. I would now request Priya to please take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Garima. Welcome, Pradeep, or welcome, Sanjeev, to the session. Both of you represent one of the biggest, largest media publications in the country, The Hindu and The Economic Times. Looking forward to an interesting discussion with both of you and a lot of insight into the topic, which for today is paywalls, whether there is sufficient money. Interesting topic in terms of relevance in current Indian news media landscape. Paywalls in India got popular, say, in the last 3 and 4 years. Since then, it's almost been like a flurry. Every publication you go to, you're almost hitting some sort of a paywall somewhere. I mean, for a long time, news was always subsidized, and even today by ad revenue. But I guess now, more than any other time, it is clear that media organizations have realized that subscriptions or paywall is really the way to go. I mean, that is how perhaps one can really build a much sustainable business model. So I think this discussion should really help us understand not that there is just a paywall, but what are the reasons why media companies are putting a paywall and what purpose would it serve from there? That's what we're hoping to take away from this discussion. So let me start with you, Pradeep. Pradeep, you've been with Hindu for a while. Uh, there was e-paper, which got really, really popular with NRIs, and from there you guys migrated to paywall somewhere, I guess, in 2017, if I'm not wrong. What have been the learnings for you and for Hindu in terms of how paywall journalism is evolving, and what really is the Hindu experiment in 2021 around implementing paywalls?
Thanks, Priya. Yeah. So see, first of all, I think, as far as journalism, paywall journalism evolution is concerned, I think if you really look at it, other than the last 25 years, when the highly credible publishers or sources of publication gave their content free of cost on the website, other than these last 25 years, if you pick up the news business history of 200 and 250 years, it was always been a paid product. It was never a free product. It is only in the last 25 years that it ended up becoming a free product, right? So so in that sense, if you talk about paywall journalism from our perspective, we think that our future lies in our past, right? So in 1947, in lieu of 2 years of subscription of Hindu, one could have bought 10 grams of gold, right? So in 1947, also the Hindu it was not that the Hindu was a pure paper, subscription product. Even then it had advertising. However, the primary source of revenue was subscription. So here we are talking about, like today, if I have to do the same pricing, I should have been charging minimum 100 rupees a day for my newspaper product. But the fact is that we charge about 5 rupees. So in the era when the subscription, when our cover prices were very, very high, so the business model was very, very simple. The simple was that we have to generate high quality content, in-depth content on a sustainable basis. And if we did that, people purchased our product. And the point was that to do this kind of a content, you had to have a very high quality people, invest in technology, and the business was pretty much good, right? So we think that paywall journalism is something which is very, very, it's going to be one of the best things that has happened to the news industry over in a long, long time. Though the current period looks dark, but then it's not a very, very long. We don't think it will last for a long time, right? And we believe that once the reader pays for your revenue, you have no other choice but to be completely true to the reader. And once again, the great golden years of content creators which we have seen before last, and I think that period lasted for fairly long time, almost 100 years, when, like you had great content writers writing on newspapers, magazines, and all that, and there were a set of intellectually sound people coming to this business, and, and it was a really a golden era. We feel this era is just round the corner. Maybe, 5-10 years down the line, you will be another. And see, like as far as India is concerned, we feel that COVID has actually advanced the paywalls by a few years. So, and we believe that, so as far as Hindu is concerned, like it has always been a very serious kind of a newspaper, right? So typically, like, we were always about so a lot of news organizations decided to have a different identity for for their digital websites than their newspapers. We did not do it. So we had the same identity which was there for the paper, and we said the same will be taken to the news site. And in India, a lot of business happened around ABCD content, which was astrology, Bollywood, cricket, and devotion, right? And Hindu did not do any of them. So we have a policy of not covering the celebrity lifestyles and all that. So naturally, a lot of this thing actually hurt Hindu in this business, because we started falling in numbers, right? But what happened in the last couple of years, that the realization start becoming very, very clear to people, that ad dominant based business model are no longer working in the world. However, a lot of publications started seeing a lot of success with subscription, and I think that's where, it created a large opportunity for publication like Hindu. So if you look at our e-paper, you rightly said that, it went behind the paywall about 6 years back, but it is in February 2019 that we took our websites behind the paywall. So e-paper, because it is not crawled and all that, it is a limited number of users who use e-papers. The website was a product where we have 30-40 million people coming on a monthly basis. So this product went behind the paywall about 2 years back. And our own experiences with paywall is very encouraging, right? So in last year, which is financial year 2021, 47% of our digital revenue came from subscriptions, right? And our revenue grew by 50% over the previous financial year. And you have to remember that this was the year, one of the worst year in the 100-year history of the organization. Last year was really, really bad. And in spite of that, our digital revenues grew by 50%. Subscription, subscription ended up contributing to 47% of the overall digital revenue. Subscription itself grew by 150%, right? So our experiences are very, very good when it comes to subscription. But having said so, we also realize that 95% of our audience will never pay for subscription. So it is only, at best, we will target just about, say, 5% people in the foreseeable future. And for the balance 95% people, we need to find solutions which are around advertising, which are around e-commerce, and we have to experiment a lot of things. So clearly, we are moving towards a subscription dominant business in next few years. We want to be a subscription dominant business. Hopefully, in this financial year, we will have more revenue coming from digital, coming from subscription than from advertising. But advertising is always going to remain very, very integral to our business.
Right. Thanks a lot, Pradeep, for that. Sanjeev, if I may come to you, the ET Prime paywall experience is also about 3 years old now. What are some of the learnings that you folks have had from this experience, and how do you think that paywall journalism is going to evolve in the future coming years? Sanjeev, we can't hear you.
I was on mute, yeah, sorry. I think Economic Times has from the very beginning focused on creating and the best formats of journalism, and that's been a core strength, right? We believe that paywall is just an added layer to that, and it helps support the core philosophy of Economic Times, that invest in continue to create best journalism in the country. So far that we've done, right? What we have learned in the last 3 years of ET Prime journey is that paywall journalism will continue to evolve with the changing consumer needs and advancement in technology. We've seen both these things changing over a period of time, and the evolution is not just about whether you want to paywall a certain content category or whether you do not want to paywall a certain content category. The evolution has been across various aspects of creating a sustainable reader revenue or a subscription based business, right? I think there has been a drastic evolution and in the mindset of people and the mindset of each and everyone involved in running a publisher or a media house, which is moving from a ad driven to a mix of ad plus reader revenue business. So I think the biggest learning has been on the mindset, and to my mind that's the most important thing, because as a organization, each and every individual from product, technology, edit, and monetization need to be aligned and clear of the long term goals, uh, and need to understand the benefits of the long term paywall strategy for us to be able to build a sustainable business. So I think that's number one. uh, Second is that paywall is not just about introducing a paywall and waiting for the consumer to maybe either subscribe or not subscribe, right? It is about creating, it is again committing ourselves to the idea of creating and investing the best journalism, which in turn will create a large set of engaged and discerning customers for us, and they will come back to us, who cannot live without, let's say, a brand like ET on for any single day, right? So it's about investing in journalism, creating those habit forming products, and then offering content and products and that kind of an experience for which a user will pay in spite of free alternatives, right? So there may be free alternatives. So it's not just about a piece of content; it's about the entire packaging and experience for which a user pays, right? In spite of free alternatives being available. So that's a big change in strategy and mindset that all of us need to go through if you want to build a sustainable paywall. And that's a big part of the evolution journey that we've seen, right? The second important aspect is on the type of paywall that you choose, right? I think there are various formats and those are also evolved, right? People have evolved from metered paywall to a premium model to a hard paywall, right? So it totally depends on the kind of content strategy and the kind of engagement you have with the users to figure out what should be a right paywall strategy. Going ahead, to my mind, with technologies like 5G and virtual experiences, there can be newer paywall models that may evolve over a period of time, which we currently are not aware of. But as technology progresses, uh, I mean, those models will evolve, right? So that's around. So one important aspect is the mindset. Second is the type of paywall you choose. Third is about the data and personalization that you build and how that evolves over a period of time. Because initially, I mean, once you want to build a paywall strategy, you need to evolve from looking at matrices like page views and UVs to more relevant matrices which are about user engagement and their interaction with the content, because that is all which will feed into your paywall engine. With that data and personalization, you will also continue to evolve your paywall engine. I think these are three, four big things which are important for us to maybe build a sustainable paywall and evolve the entire journey of building a subscription business.
Right, right. Thanks, no, thanks, Sanjeev, for that. I mean, rightly said. But that really brings me to the question, while we're talking about paywall as the way to sort of build sustainable business models, what is the size of paying audiences that we see in India? I mean, how do you sort of arrive at that number? How many people do you think would really come out and pay for content in that sense? What is your understanding or your take on this?
So it will depend on a large number of factors for each and every publisher. But if I go by pure demographics, we believe that there is definitely, I mean, by the current demographics, there are about 3 to 4 million people, 2.5. That that is the total addressable market size for people. I'm speaking mostly from the business news category, right? Who may be interested in business news as a category, right? To arrive at that number, we can look at various data points. You can look at data, I mean, taxpayer data, income level data, etc., and also some of the ComScore matrices to draw some proxies, right? So our belief is definitely there is a 3 to 4 million people who would, that's a total addressable market size as per the current demographics we feel, right? So that's the number we have in mind, right? However, as I mentioned, the actual for each and every publisher, it will depend on a lot of factors, right? The kind of audiences being targeted, percentage of loyal readers. That's the most important metric, right? If you have a I mean, that's the those are the power users who will first subscribe and those currently and will engage more with your content and also will be your kind of brand ambassadors to spread the word of mouth, right? Other important parameters which will define the size of the market is the price points that you operate in, the various kind of tiered products you bring in, right? And also openness to global expansion, right? Ken has expanded to Southeast Asia, right? So it also is a variable in the entire uh, paywall business model and what you actually think or can actually build for each and every publisher, right? Over and above this, I believe that I mean, if you look at global models, there is an X percentage of your overall audiences or direct users who end up becoming paywall, which Pradeep mentioned, right? About 4 to 5% people of your overall user base will end up becoming a subscriber. But overall, to my mind, the total addressable market is about 3 to 4 million. I'm talking only about business news as a category.
Right, right. And Pradeep, coming to you, I mean, Hindu is a much more, is more general in nature in terms of, the news that it offers. What do you think is, the kind of market you have for paywall content? What would be the size of paying audience for you if you were to sort of take a guess?
So when we look at paying audiences, there are two possibilities. So one is number of unique people who have paid in a given period, say last 12 months. Another is which is the mostly the definition which we use internally, is number of active subscribers, right? When I say active subscribers, number of people who, as of today, can go and read a particular content which is behind a subscription paywall. So as per our estimate is concerned, the current active subscriber base in India would be around 2 million people who are paying for some publication or the other and are active, right? But the people who would have paid in last 12 months for any digital content, that number we estimate to be about 3 million as of today. So this number looks small, but if you will look at in the context of the, so E&Y and FICCI had published a report in, I think, March 2020, wherein they, according to them, their estimate for December 2019 was, they said that less than 1 million people are paying for digital news in December 2019. So clearly, we feel that COVID has pushed this number, and today there's at least 100% growth, and there are 2 million active subscribers. I don't know what was the definition for them, but I think their definition would have been more around anybody who had paid in the last 12 months. So if we go by that logic, that number would be, our estimate is about 3 million. But having said so, our biggest comfort is not in these numbers. Our biggest comfort is in the various research which has been done in India, right? So as per Reuters India Institute, they had published one report, India Digital Report in 2019. According to them, Indians are more likely to pay for digital news than Americans. So this is like this is something which was very big for me, that Indians have more willingness to pay for digital news than Americans. So according to this report, which was 40% of Indians said they are likely or somewhat likely to pay for the digital news content. So to me, the somewhat likely is that content which purchases on need and does not subscribe for the long term. But and then there is a very likely is the person perhaps who goes for the long term contracts with the publishers in terms of subscription, right? So if I look at a 500 million user base of India, right? So according to the people who read news as far as Comscore is concerned, so by that logic, if I put a 40% of the people as per the Reuters Institute, we are talking about 200 million market developing over the next few years, right? And similarly, like incidentally, this number 40% for India, for US is 18%, was 18% in 2019, right? And their numbers were much lesser. So I feel the potential of this market is very, very large. So Reuters, if I just take the numbers of Reuters Institute, we are talking about 200 million people as of today, who may have some propensity to pay. I
Pradeep?
also believe that it will
Pradeep,
take
we've
time
lost him.
Okay, is it better now?
Better
Can you
now,
hear me?
yes.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that, see, 40,
Yes.
according to Reuters Institute report of 2019, the current estimate of Indians who may pay for content would be 200 million, right? If I go by the report published by World Economic Forum in 2020, am I audible, Priya?
Yes, Pradeep, you are.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So if I look at the world white paper published by World Economic Forum in 2020, according to them, 67% of Indians were willing to pay for digital news. So now the numbers, see, now nobody is predicting this is happening in a very short time, but everybody is predicting that in a long term, that the prospects for Indian publishers to make money from digital subscriptions is going to be very, 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 very encouraging. So we feel that, it's all the publishers in this country will be behind paywall in a matter of 2 years. Legacy publishers will move their e-papers behind the paywall. We feel that within next to 6 to 8 months, all the big legacy papers. Already, if you will see that
Yeah.
most of the legacy publishers e-papers are behind the paywall, but we feel that most of them, about 80-90% of them will be e-papers will be behind the paywall within a 6 months time, and all the websites would have some form of your subscription, whether it is a metered, whether it's a freemium, whatever model they decide. But we feel that most of the publishers will be behind the paywall within 2 years time frame. So broadly speaking, we feel that the market is growing nicely. We feel the numbers of estimates by which more looks like optimistic scenarios by both World Economic Forum as well as Reuters Institute. But if I go by their numbers, the future looks pretty bright to us.
Thanks, Pradeep. Those are definitely very, very encouraging numbers, and I hope that that many people come out and pay for journalism in India. That's going to be a win-win situation. But really, I mean, what is the kind of information that people are willing to pay for? I mean, there is a lot of stuff that is still available for free online. Um, you guys have obviously done paywall for a while. What is your experience? What kind of segment of content are people willing to pay for? Are they looking for some sort of privileged information? What is it that will make them pay in terms of content?
So see, our experience is that if I look at e-paper, our e-paper was paid when the website was free. Yet thousands of people were paying for it, and they were paying for that linear experience of discovery. Okay, they could have very well read that editorial on our website free of cost, but they decided to pay because these people, especially the students who subscribe to Hindu for preparing for the civil services, loved our linear format. They could bookmark this particular content which they will be using later, and so they were paying for the discovery linear format and experience. But when we moved to the website, we started finding a very large correlation between high quality in-depth content and willingness to pay. So long format content does very well. We have a long format magazine called Frontline, and this is doing amazingly well on the subscription front, right? It's a very, very clearly positioned product. It's a long format, no story below 2,000-3,000 words, and it does brilliantly well. On Hindu, we have realized that if somebody reads editorial, then their propensity to pay is way higher. So anybody who reads editorial, opinions, op-ed, debates, so more of a serious content when they read, their propensity to pay is much higher than the people who are reading entertainment and other softer contents, right? So we have not really mastered this model, but we keep on learning, and we keep on figuring out what is going to work, right? But our challenge as a publisher is that we have two set of audience to cater. One which which has a very short attention span. They want very, very short content, format content, and that content actually is very suitable for revenue, because if they consume more pages, you can put more ad banners and all that, and perhaps make more advertising money. But the subscription user wants a very in-depth, long format content, and now you have two audiences to cater. One which is asking for a short content, another which is asking for long content, and both these needs to be catered. One for making subscription revenue, another for making ad revenue. So that is what I think is the challenge which we face. But on a subscription front, we are getting a real good idea that our serious, long format, deeply analytical content does very, very well.
That's good to hear, Pradeep. In fact, uh, from my personal experience at TMC, something similar. I mean, for us, we ride across three verticals, which is internet, business, and chaos. Very different from each other. I mean, for each of them, our whole experience has been that if you write great stories, if you do justice to what you are, talking about, people are going to put their top dollars and pay for it. So we've had, that kind of positive experience. Sanjeev, how has it been for, ET Prime? What kind of content or information do you see people sort of, putting their money on?
I would like to pick the thought that Pradeep shared, right? It's about, I mean, what he was talking about the long form content, right? The way we look is we look at content as like a continuum, right? There is a complete lean back format, and then there is a complete long form content, right? Then, so there is a user and there are different kinds of content, right? In the continuum, there is a lean back or long form, and within those, there are various segments, industries, right? And things like that. So if you kind of start to slice and dice this entire content, it is very interesting problem to solve, right? And I think a data and personalization, a crux on which we take decisions is based on data, right? While started with the long form content, we keep experimenting because we get a lot of user surveys which say that okay, it is very interesting, but we would want, as Pradeep mentioned, that we want to consume it in a much smaller time frame, right? So I think that's how we're looking at it, and then basis that we take decisions on the choice that we have to make is what we can offer versus what is sought by the loyal readers and what readers are looking for. So that's what that is how we look at our end. Over and above that, if you can layer it with various user needs, right? I mean, they have a need for getting perspective, need for maybe keeping themselves updated on trends. So it's a multi-way, it's a very complex problem. So we strongly believe in data and personalization to take care of it. And that's how we decide to take our the content decisions. And all of this data is fed very into the newsroom on a regular basis. That forms, if you ask about what people pay for in general on the on our website, I think we've seen good conversion on markets related, personal finance, corporate governance, technology. Those are the categories where people are very keen, right, including startups. However, there is an interesting point that we observed is that people while pay for convert for a few categories, right? I mean, if post their payment, you can divide into from a readership behavior, you can divide it into the various categories, right? There will be people who will be very niche readers and will operate and read only content belonging to a couple of categories, let's say technology, markets, or corporate governance. There'll be a percentage of people who will consume more than 2 to 3 categories and up to 8 to 10 categories, right? And there you'll also find generalists who will consume more than 10 categories on the platform, right? So I think one is what converts the user and what kind of content people pay for, and second most important aspect that we also need to cater to is what actually they end up reading, right? Because stated behavior and conversion may be very different from what they end up consuming, right? So I think that's how we look at this entire problem, and we work according based on completely based on data, and editorial judgment is what drives us.
No, thanks. Thank you, Sanjeev, for that. I do want to take a moment and sort of zoom out and look at this entire paywall strategy in terms of a business model. I think the larger question that emerges in front of a lot of publications and especially the legacy media houses, that ad revenues have been going down. Uh, the money that we make from a paywall model, is that really enough to sustain a newsroom? How do you sort of see that? Uh, I have my own experience of running a balance sheet in PNL at TMC, where we have some 13 journalists, about that, and it's a slightly lean team. Even with that, today I sort of feel that probably subscription revenue is not enough, and that there is a need to supplement it with something. Could be ad revenue, or probably explore something else. What is the math really looking like for larger organizations like a Hindu or an Economic Times? You guys have probably more than 100 people on your payroll. So how do you sort of manage that? And where do you think that, there'll be a time where subscription can really be a dominant revenue stream for, larger organizations like yours? Uh, Pradeep, do you want to sort of come in first?
Yeah. So see, what we have realized that if every successful publisher in the world who has transitioned to the subscription model has done two things. One, cut down on the quantity of content that they produce, and two, expanded their newsroom. So clearly, if you want to succeed in pay with paywalls, you need to invest in journalism, and you need to be way more focused than perhaps what you are today. So so I have spent more than 2 decades in news media and various companies, and in every newsroom you could find some versatile journalist who could write on a wide range of topic, right from municipal corporation to say as diverse as technology, right? But we feel that the future of journalism is about specialization. So see, we have newspaper business as its root in a period when time was in abundance, while information was scarce, right? So the reader valued more and more information and rewarded the sources that could provide it. However, in the last 20 years, what has happened is that digital has created gigantic volumes of information and has started transforming the society to a period where information is in abundance, but time is scarce, right? So the old method of providing value to the reader needs to be revisited, right? No longer more and more information is going to unlock the value. So as a news organization, we need to swap more with less, impersonal carpet bombing with personalization, and generic shallow news with more distinct in-depth news kind of a stuff. So in brief, in a short time scarce society, less but highly customized news will unlock the values, what we think. And I was attending one session, and that was really one of the very wonderful things which I heard about in this context, right? So there is this South China Morning Post, which which said that how do we really? So they few years back they started by asking themselves that why do we exist? Who will miss it if we cease to exist tomorrow? And they said that their biggest opportunity was to interpret China to the world, because China was becoming very, very important for the world. It was becoming the second biggest economy in the world. So they said that now we will interpret the China for the world. And they did this. So few months back when this was narrated by their CEO, he said that they had 5.5 million average monthly users, and a few months back it was 51 million monthly users that they were attracting. Right? Look at the transition when they say that, okay, now we are a focused, very, very, we are something where there's a large interest. So I think for a lot of us, these questions like why do we exist, who is going to miss us are the questions which will help us really understand that, like what we can do. So see, like if you ask me that when will this become a dominant business? So see, like if you look at subscription as a category, in 2000, 22% of New York Times revenue was coming from subscription, right? So just 22%, right? And it was only in 2012, first time subscription, crossed the advertising business and was contributing 48% of revenue, while ads were contributing 45. Currently, 70% of New York Times revenue is coming from subscription and 21% from ads, right? So in my opinion, India was about 15-20 years behind US in digital adoption. However, with the COVID push, the speed of adoption in India is going to be much, much faster. So we think that it will take about 10 years for subscription to become the primary source of revenue for the publishers. And in the next few years, we believe there's a lot of going to change, both for the digital products as well as the print products. So like if you look at Indian newspapers, we are the cheapest product in the world. We charge 5 rupees for a newspaper. And just for comparison, in Sri Lanka, the cover price is 30 rupees, and in Pakistan, it is 25 rupees, right? So naturally, this is the business where the publishers will increase the price. That will help the digital also to keep increasing the ARPU, right? And I think, in the overall piece of things, there will be a certain amount of opportunities which will get unlocked, right? So, and when I look at profitable operation, so so a lot of times the question comes to us, how will you develop a profitable operation, right? So I, as a legacy publisher, always ask myself, what is the meaning of profitable publisher? So when we say normally, what we mean is that like a Western world, which may be 15, 20, 25 years down the line, when you have no newspaper, then how will you make your revenue, right? So what we did was we did this exercise to understand that what is the revenue this organization makes minus all print-loaded costs. And we are trying to develop a larger understanding about that, okay, this is the kind of numbers which, which the organization, if it has to sustain itself, will need. Then what we have to do is we have to say that, okay, now if this is to be delivered, how will we deliver? So there is as 70%, we feel that 70% of dependence should be on subscription and 30% revenue should always come from other sources, right? So we feel that, you see, the great part of this business is if you look at New York Times, the maximum print circulation they ever had was 1.5 million copies. but currently they have 7.5 million subscribers, right? Which means that as a publication house, we have the ability to lift multifold numbers than what was possible with our print product, because there were so many constraints they
Right.
faced which we don't face, right?
Yeah.
Second part of it is that, see, there is a large opportunity to run ARPU, like increase the ARPU. We, in last 1.5 years, we have increased our ARPU by 100%. We feel that this should at least increase by 200% in next 2 to 3 years time, right? So we feel that it's a lot of possibility to run profitable businesses. We feel that, if we can just figure out what we want, then figure out, okay, this is the kind of numbers which are possible, this is the ARPU. It's quite easy. If I have to do, say, 100 crore revenue to build a profitable business, let's say a small size newspaper, right? So they, in my opinion, they should say that 70 crore I have to go with subscription. If I charge 1,000 rupees per annum, I need 700,000 subscribers. However, if I do 2,000 rupees per annum, I can do it with 3,50,000 subscribers, right? And see, when we are thinking about this price, average US news organization is charging $12 per month, which means they are charging about 11,000 rupees per year. So even at a 2,000 rupees, you are still not really saying that. And like you guys are, you guys and couple of others are already charging 3,000 rupees kind of price point. So it is possible to really, for us organization like a generic organization, news organization, mainstream news organization like us, to increase the cover price or the charges for subscription. So clearly we feel that it is going to happen. It's a matter of time. We believe that it will take about 10 years. In 2020, first time for New York Times, digital revenue was more than the print revenue. So it has takes time, but as long as you are growing in a certain manner, that we will be able to build very, very sustainable business. We will be able to do a great job of building a viable business through our digital subscription and other digital and cultivating other sources of revenue.
Right. No, thanks a lot, Pradeep. Sanjeev, what do you think with the kind of cost structures legacy media companies, are saddled with, and now the need to move to a paywall sort of structure? Is it really possible to have paywall, subscription revenue as your dominant revenue stream? And do you think that, with a paywall model, one can really build a sustainable business at all?
We truly believe, I mean, based on our last 2 3 years of journey on managing a business which is driven both by ads and paywall, we believe that this business model of ad plus paywall or reader revenue will continue to support a core philosophy that we believe in, which is about creating more better journalism and for our users, right? So we strongly believe that definitely paywall, a mix of ad plus paywall, is a very sustainable business in the long term, from a long term perspective, right? In fact, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, the reader revenue mix, in fact, places us in a much more stronger foundation, because we believe that it will also strengthen our advertising revenue. Why we say that is because with paywall we have more engaged users, we have more direct relationship with our end users, right? And hence are more, they should end, they're technically more valuable to an advertiser, right? However, we believe in the long run advertisers will also change matrices from looking at, let's say, a simple impression based to more the impact that a certain publisher or they are getting out of their advertisement, right? So our matrices will also change, and some of the leading players may change the narrative from an advertising perspective also. So we strongly
Right.
believe ad plus subscription is the right model to go. I mean, we can differ in terms of what is the right mix. We believe that 60-40 kind of a ratio, where 40% is coming from, let's say 40-45% is coming from digital revenues and 55 to 60 is coming from subscription, in the medium to long run, is a very sustainable format. On the digital side, we'll definitely look at more revenue streams, which can be marketing, it can be virtual events, and those kinds of revenue streams. Also, I think the content commerce can also be a big source of revenue for a lot of publishers, and that forms part of advertising. So, to my mind, it's 55 to 60 versus 35 to 40 kind of a mix, which is very sustainable. And as the reader revenue grows, right, as you realize more and more reader revenue, you get more operating leverage because your costs do not grow in the same proportion. And I would like to add to what Pradeep said. I think the less is more here. I mean, it's not about creating lot many stories. it's the entire sales experience and the storytelling and experience and what you know about the readers and distributing the right content at the right point in time. All of that will create the wow experience for the reader, and hence they will end up paying and uh, create a sustainable business for each of the publishers. There is a slight caveat here, that the industry, we believe, the winner takes most dynamics. I mean, if you look at the global standards, top two players have taken most of the market. I mean, they own almost like 70 to 80% of the market share. So it's important that you be in the top two players in the industry.
Right, right. Sanjeev, that actually sort of brings me to the advertisers also, and I wanted to touch upon this. How do you sort of treat your advertisers, now that you have a paywall? Both you guys have had, a lot of advertising income coming onto your paper. And now when you put it on the digital front, how is it that your advertisers are looking at it? Or what is the kind of conversations that you're having with them? What is it that has changed? For them in terms of how they perceive it? Is it some sort of a perception that there is loss of audience? Because obviously, putting ad before on a free content where as many number of people can access versus putting it behind a paywall sort of content. What is it that the advertisers are saying? What kind of conversations are you guys having with them?
Okay, so I think if you look at ET specifically, I mean, our reach is massive, right? And as we discussed earlier, we believe that a certain percentage of loyal audiences will be the power users and will be the first set of users who will convert and buy a subscription, right? So I think it's from an advertiser perspective, if they're looking at masses, enough masses for them to serve their ROI or to help them achieve their matrices that they're looking at. But as I mentioned, in the long run, we are open to looking at creating the right set of, I mean, opening up the audiences to the right set of brands, but in more like a conversational format rather than it's like the advertiser achieves their objective of an impression, but the user dissonance happens, right? So in the long run, we believe that even look at NYT and other FTs of the world, wherein they still open ads to subscribers, but those are,
Yeah.
I think it's the matchmaking engine at the back end that would do wonders for them, ensuring that they serve the right ads to the right set of users. So in the long run, that's how we look at it, right? So if you look at I mean, so majority of the population can still be reached with the advertisers. Specifically, I mean, interestingly, I think there are also conversations which are happening in terms of how can advertisers reach out to our premium audiences, etc. That is something that we are continuing to learn and maybe open or those decisions we'll take as we move forward. But yes, I mean, definitely once we reach a certain scale, advertisers are very keen to look at these premium audiences. Uh,
Right.
but we will be very choosy in the brands that we offer them.
Sure. Yeah. Pradeep, how do you see it, and what is it that your advertisers are sort of talking to you guys about, and what is it that you have to say about this?
See, all our advertisers are growing in their own ways. They are dealing with advertising. So there is a large evolution happening. But as of now, if you will see, paid user on our site is less than 1% user is paying. So more than 99% user is not even paying. So I don't think at this point it bothers them, because maybe at some time when we become really big, maybe that point in time it will bother. But at this point in time, I don't think our advertisers are too worried, because the numbers are really, really small, because it's a like a fairly small numbers. But what has started happening is some of our advertisers are now exploring the they want to really say that what can we do with the walled gardens. So and like they are interested, they are showing some interest. So we are trying to figure out how to really work with them closely. So for our e-paper, we first time introduced a digital exclusive, say cover on cover. The day when the newspaper doesn't have a cover on cover, you can perhaps take only digital e-paper cover on cover. So that format started attracting a lot of people who are interested in reaching out to the subscribed audiences. Similarly, like these newsletters and all that, where in the newsletter, a lot of our newsletter goes to subscribed users also. We are doing some experimentations there, that because that's actually not, they are not in the site to have a, like currently on the site, that's the site of the site experience. So there, when we are doing some experimentation. But As of now, I don't think it's a large botheration for advertisers, and I don't think it will be a large botheration for next 5 years, because 5 years down the line, if 3-4% of the people end up paying Hindu, we will be dramatically happy. And even at a 97% people not being affected by subscription, advertiser too will be happy.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, last question from me, and then we'll just take audience questions. I think one thing that worries me personally is, will people really come again and again and pay for your content? Uh, there are, of course, a lot of first-time subscribers that we see coming. What is the renewal rate, or what is the churn rate that you think that you'd be seeing or you've seen in your own businesses? I think
Should I
that's
take
one of
it?
the largest. Sorry, Pradeep.
Should I go first?
Yeah, Pradeep,
Yeah,
please.
thanks.
Okay. So say, like, if see this question, actually, if you will look at it, we have 142 years of history of people paying for subscription, right? So I don't see any challenge why the renewing of digital subscriptions will be a challenge. However, we have to remember that our to our reader has to find value in what we are giving. So the challenge is value versus money. When everything is free, establishing value becomes very, very complicated. See, we are asking user to pay 3 rupees 75 paise for 1 day to access to one of the best products of India, right? Which is lesser than even a roadside tea costs you 5 rupees, and the labor who's digging the road takes 3 cups of tea. So 3 rupees 75 paise per day cannot be a very large money for people. It's the challenge is when they say that why should I even pay 375 when everything other is free. So the challenge is not money, challenge is value, right? So I think the challenge. So as an organization, we have to really figure out a lot of things is something we will create value, a lot of market will create value. When most of the publishers will start going behind the paywall, people will start finding value, right? And you see industry after industry, you will find this trend. When these industries went behind the paywall, people started paying for it, right? So we think that as long as we can deliver a very engaging product, and we have a great journalism and provide great experience to users, people will pay for it. Now, when you come to our retention, we have done a very shoddy job. We have a very, very poor retention. Okay. And if you really ask me why did this happen, right? So the churn rates are very, very bad because we treated our users very badly. Okay. We went launch with a minimum viable product, right? And when we in the first few months when we Hindu launched, we had a 30 days free trial before you had to pay. 84% of the subscriber paid on day one. They did not even want to take the free trial because they had so much of a faith in the brand.
Right.
They will write to us that you are doing a shoddy job. I can't do this, I can't do that. But we somehow thought that, like a typical internet startup, we thought that we will launch with a minimal viable product, and we did. We had lots and lots of challenges. We did not do a great job on onboarding. We did not do a great job in a great job in engaging with them. So we behaved almost like a gym user, which in my lifetime I have taken 7 gym membership. The best usage I was 30 out of 365 days is what I used, right? So I never renewed when those guys called. And same is the case happening when you don't bother about engagement. So now we have hired people who are, we have some really data savvy people who are bothered about the engagement. We are trying to create reader onboarding journeys. We are trying to, see. So our focus has also changed. So we realize that when somebody decides to give you a real estate on her most valuable real estate of a mobile phone, right? Magic happens on engagement. So today, app is becoming central to our identity. We are feeling that or rather our strategy, not identity, our strategy. So we are now becoming app focused. We want to engage with the user. We want to onboard them. So this year we are aiming at a 50% improvement in our retention rates. So they are poor, but we will fix it. It's a matter of time. In 2 to 3 years' time, we will see the world standard for the good publishers is 70% retention. So we will be aiming for a 70% retentions within 2 to 3 years time frame, and we are pretty sure that we will be able to reach it.
That's great, Pradeep, and all the best for that. Sanjeev, quick one for you, from you, and then we'll move to audience questions. We have about 5 more minutes. Yeah.
Sure. So I think churn is one of the most important metric that we look at and focus on, right? What we believe as a philosophy, what I started with was that we believe that we have to create stories and product and experiences that people find worth paying for despite free alternatives, right? So that's the crux of everything that we do, and hence churn becomes very important. And so if anyone, any person who moves out of our ecosystem and decides to cancel, all of us, all the key product managers, everyone gets into action to understand why a person is churning, right? And figuring out the reasons for churn. And we do extensive user interviews and to reach out to consumers and figure out what the reasons are. And what Pradeep mentioned, I think most of the times it's about value versus the price, right? People are ready to pay that much amount of price. And value is also like manifested in various ways, right? So it's manifested in the number of stories that they find relevant for them. It's manifested in the formats, in the way we tell a story. It's also manifested in the additional benefits that they get as a member. Also importantly, it's manifested because there is lack of attention. A lot of times people may have a lot of good relevant stories for them, but they are unable to discover, they end up not discovering them, and hence while we have the right content they do not discover, and they create this perception, okay, I paid X amount of money but I didn't find what I was looking for, and they churn. So I think it's very complicated problems. It's important for us to understand why a person is churning out of the system, whether it's a voluntary churn or an involuntary churn. Involuntary is still can be taken care of by technology, but voluntary churn, understanding that and then creating the right set of interventions from for a user, creating a customer success team. Pradeep mentioned about customer onboarding. We also have an offboarding flow for a user to control churn. And we're happy to say that, I mean, today we are almost as close to the global standards of retention on churn. I think that's a big achievement
Sure.
for us in the last 1.5 2 years, and we're very proud of that.
Sure, sure. Thanks. Thank you, Sanjeev. Very quickly, one question from the audience. Do you think a paywall model is feasible for small digital media companies, especially digital vernacular-based brands? Pradeep, Sanjeev, any one of you can take this, and then we'll have to close the session.
See, in
So,
my opinion, yeah, sorry, Sanjeev, you can go ahead.
please go ahead, Pradeep. Yeah.
Yeah. So in my opinion, see, it is actually more valuable for the smaller publication. So see, the frontline magazine of ours is a niche offering. It's not a broad offering, right? And it makes a tremendous sense for the niche offering to actually go for it, because with a niche offering, you can never build economies with advertising. Right? So advertising rates will never, a niche publication just can't survive with advertising based business model. So the only business model available to the smaller publications is a subscription based model. Now, as far as vernacular is concerned, I am dramatically sure that they will do very well, because we are likely to follow Scandinavian countries format. So if you will see the who's paying the largest in the world, it is Norway. 47, 45 or 47% of the people pay for digital subscription. You pick up each country, Norway, Sweden, and all that, and you see dramatic success. And these countries are not English. They are all their own regional languages, right? Same as with Germany. So if we study we feel that, niche publications especially should go for it, try to figure out what value they add to the consumer, and we believe that they will do a very, very great job as far as the subscription revenue is concerned.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Pradeep. I think we've maxed out the time, so we'll have to now close the session. Thanks, Pradeep. Thank you, Sanjeev, for this lovely session. And I hope that readers now and continue to pay for content, journalism content, as much as they pay probably for a Netflix or a Spotify. With this, thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
Priya.
you.
Thanks, Sanjeev.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
IML.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you to all our
Bye.
panelists. Thank you for
Bye.
joining us. Thank you to the audience as well. We'll be back with another session shortly. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.